because people say, your most valuable asset is time, right? But if you have all the time in the world, but you don't know where to put your attention within that time, you're really still not going to be able to optimize your experiences.
One of the things that a lot of folks are dealing with is a lot of negative thinking. Is there a way to eliminate negative thinking?
I don't think overnight. And that's been a part of my work for many years, is showing people tools to help them expand their thinking beyond just the negative thoughts. Because here's the big misconception, is that you can get rid of the negative thoughts. And I don't think that really is I don't think that's realistic. I think the negative thoughts are there for everybody. But if you can expand your awareness, which is what they talk about with practices like meditation, you can go beyond that and you can get perspective on that. And I just sent something out today, in fact, one of my daily doses of inspiration, where Eckhart Tolle talked about looking at the sort of negativity like you would look at the antics of a child, right? You don't take it personally. You don't let it run your life. You just notice it and like, oh, that's childlike, that way of dealing with things or reacting to life situations. But, there's a more mature way to do that. So if you have that expanded awareness, then you can tap into those more mature options, those spiritually mature options for dealing with it, which means what I do now is going to affect what happens later.
So you're saying happy, successful people have negative thoughts? Like, is that what
everybody has negative thoughts? Yeah.
Why does it seem like, those people that are doing well don't think the way that I think? And number one, and also once you have that realization that everybody does have negative thoughts, I think you just mentioned, it's expanded awareness, so we can understand what to do with those negative thoughts and choose other than. So is there anything that we can do proactively for us to kind of address, and maybe is it making the positive voice a little bit louder?
In India, back in Eastern philosophy, they talk about this concept of self-realization, right? Which a lot of people these days have heard about, especially in the wellness scene, self-realization. But I think it's still kind of a very elusive, ambiguous term. Like, what does that even mean, self-realization? And what they're referring to is that there are two yous. There's your individuality, and then there's a part of you that's a much more expansive than that, which they call your universality. So the individuality consists of the facts of the moment, right? I am Shawn Stevenson, grew up in, Missouri, went to such and such school. I had this, ran track, had this, all these facts of the moment. And so if that is our dominant reality, is that the sort of factual aspect of ourselves, and something goes south or goes left in our dominant reality, then we become intrinsically tied to and identified with whatever is or is not happening, right? If we can tap into our universal reality, which is I am this person, but I'm also, this person is a expression of a spirit or an essence or a soul, and that soul is connected to all these other things, and so that will be your capital S self within that paradigm. And so practices like meditation, gratitude, seva, which is essentially volunteering, and journaling, and these kinds of inner work practices, they tie you to that universal aspect. So then when things go left on the individual level, you still have a lot more spaciousness to see that who you are is a lot bigger than this thing that didn't go your way for 5 minutes yesterday. Whereas
Right.
if you don't have access to all of that, then you're identifying primarily with what didn't happen yesterday. And it's hard for you to see, oh, well, actually, my legs still work. I can still breathe. I can still digest my food. I live in a society where I have clean water coming out of the tap, and all these things compared to other people's experiences. And so there's a lot more to be grateful for. And so that's what self-realization really means, is you're identifying with a larger aspect of yourself instead of just your tiny little individual aspect. And so the natural byproduct of that is you feel more optimistic, you feel more positive, you feel more connected. And when you feel all those things, you don't really have to try to be positive. You just are positive. You just are grateful. You just are feeling compassionate when you're around, people who are maybe less fortunate than you, and you're more giving and all of those things. And so I've been teaching people, for many years, don't worry about trying to use all this discipline to force yourself to think positively. Just do the practices that will connect you to the larger aspect of yourself, and then the positive thinking will become a natural byproduct of that.
Oh, this is so good. So first thing, for me and for many people, meditation being a tool to kind of access, I never in my life really had that meta perspective to be able, because we're often just living in our bodies, seeing through our eyes. And to be able to step out from yourself and to look at yourself in the context of the rest of life. So these are spiritual principles because they seem intangible. And oftentimes, my problem, like you just said, might be something that bothered me 5 minutes yesterday. They're often so small when you can zoom out and look at the grand scheme of things. Just zoom out and look at the planet. How big are your problems now, So having these practices to be able to access higher orders of thinking from different perspectives, same thing. And this is what I want to ask you about, because I think it's such a valuable tool that I wasn't expecting you to bring up, but it's so true, which is service. If we're talking about dealing with our own struggles and stressors and negative thinking, how service is so healing. Part of that too is another spiritual principle of putting yourself in someone else's point of view, in a sense. So let's talk more about that, how service can help us with addressing our own struggles.
Yeah, service puts you in close proximity with giving and actually feeling the connection between you and other people. And, and that's the thing. You don't need to necessarily take a master class in what it feels like to help other people. Once you help other people, you'll have the same feeling that most other people have when they go through that experience. But I consider, a practice like meditation to be the sort of key domino, right? Volunteering is a domino, gratitude, all those other things are dominoes. But if you volunteer, it's not necessarily going to make you want to meditate, or it's not necessarily going to make you want to start a gratitude journal, or start practicing yoga, or start eating better, or start going to sleep earlier, or any of those things that are they all have a cumulative effect on our mental and physical health. But if you meditate, meditation is sort of a balancing agent. And the reason we don't do those other things is usually because there's some imbalance somewhere, right? And it could just be even a time imbalance. Like I'm spending too much time watching Netflix, or I'm spending too much time playing video games or whatever. But when you meditate, there's there's a lot of things that happen inside, but one of the things is you end up creating more spaciousness within your mind, which gives you the ability to distinguish between what's most important, what's second most important, what's third most important, like that. So anybody who has poor health, or anyone who's in a bad relationship, or your finances are in the gutter, that's a reflection mainly of priority. Really, that's what it really comes down to. Like at some point, you weren't able to discern between doing this thing in the moment and where it was going to lead to in the future, right? Now, I'm not saying this to shame anyone, because we all have different aspects of that, but that's where we typically want to look is, okay, where am I placing my attention? And one of my teachers used to say, because people say, your most valuable asset is time, right? But if you have all the time in the world, but you don't know where to put your attention within that time, you're really still not going to be able to optimize your experiences. So he would say your most valuable asset is your ability to discriminate, right? not the bad kind of discrimination, obviously, but your ability to distinguish between what is the most important priority in this moment. And if you can sense that, and I say that word sense because it's really a feeling tone, it's your intuition, right? If you can sense where you should put your attention in that moment, then that places you in an advantageous position for whatever's going to come in the next moment. Because again, there's a thread of connection between what I'm experiencing now and what ultimately the kind of life I want to create for myself and where I need to be in order to make that happen. So if I want better health, then I need to make sure I'm attending to these 5 things in the moment. And it could seem like small things, but they can have a cumulative effect on whatever happens in the next moment. So I always say, yeah, volunteering, all those things are great, but just make sure that you're also attending to the key habit that allows you to want to volunteer and do all the other things.
Wow, that's powerful, because that is such a common saying that, time is our most valuable asset. Mm-hmm. But really, within that construct of time, it's knowing where to look.
Knowing where to look.
Which is the name of this incredible new book.
You just brought it right back around.
That's what I do. It's like, this is a buddy movie, man.
That's right.
Is it, I don't know, is it Lethal Weapon, or is it, the other guys?
Rush Hour.
Will Ferrell,
Yeah.
But this book coming about. So first question is, how did this book come about? And I've got to preface by saying, you, out of every person that I've met, have made meditation the most accessible, and just making it so tangible, so simple to interact with. You take away so much of the stress, and I really appreciate that about you. And of course, we'll have your past episodes in the show notes for folks where we talk more about the practice of meditation itself. But you putting your energy into creating this amazing book, Knowing Where to Look, how did that come about?
So over 2020, I was posting a video a day, which is what we talked about in our last episode, those Insight with Light videos. And those were just like little inspirational tidbits, stories, anecdotes that could be consumed within a minute or two, that would give people a little bit of an insight into maybe something they were experiencing that they considered to be problematic, and just kind of help them find their way through that. Well, those videos were an extension of these daily doses of inspiration emails that I've been sending out every day since June 6, 2016.
Every day?
Every day. Every day. And I don't, do bulk email. I don't gang them up or anything. Every day as a meditation for myself, as a writing meditation. I spend about 2 hours composing an email that can be consumed in about 100 to 200 words. And I've got a list of thousands of people that I send it out to. And it's meant to give people a little dose of inspiration when they wake up in the morning, maybe before they meditate, maybe before they go to work, or however they want to use it. But yeah, that's been happening since June of 2016. And I was inspired by people like Seth Godin, who were, he has a very popular daily email. And it was a challenge, I was nervous when I got the feeling that this is what I'm supposed to do, which is how it started. And the feeling didn't go away. And so I knew I had to take it seriously. And I knew that I was going to run out of content in about 3 weeks, right? Because I don't know that many stories, and it's all story based. And so finally, I decided, okay, I'm going to go ahead and start. And it was a huge commitment to say I'm going to do something every day, right? And sure enough, after 3 weeks, I ran out of content. I had no more stories. But something really interesting happened. And Stephen Pressfield talks about this, the guy who wrote The War of Art. When I kept showing up, I found that even though I didn't have an idea, something would come through me that I never even anticipated. And it could have been, go to a website and research alligators, and you'll find a little anecdote or story or something, or pick up a book off the shelf and just flip open to a random page, and you'll find, like, I got these ideas, these epiphanies, and stuff would always start to come. Even if it was like 10 minutes before I had to hit the send button, something would always come. So I just really learned how to trust that process. And so, yeah, it's been happening every day like clockwork it'll be 5 years in June.
5-year anniversary.
Yeah.
Like I'm actually blown away right now.
That's crazy.
I did not know that, man.
Yeah.
Like because I was like, well, even reading the book, I'm like, well, since he's been doing this since 2016, he must do a bunch of them together and then, take some days off.
Every day. No matter if I'm traveling,
incredible.
Sick, headache,
Yeah.
holiday, birthday, it doesn't matter what it is. I'm getting up and writing. And so the book is really it's like a repository of many of the greatest hits from over the years. So these have already been focus grouped and test marketed and as the ones that got had the most impact and got the most engagement.
Come on. Greatest hits of inspiration.
The greatest
Like I'm a big
hits.
greatest hits lover. Like I was just listening to greatest hits of who was that yesterday? Alicia Keys. The greatest hits of DMX. We got the greatest hits of inspiration from Light.
Yeah.
This is great.
It's like a versus of inspiration.
Man, and it's so good. There's so many wonderful stories, and you construct it in such a way that you can literally just open it to a page. And
Yeah, man, because a lot of people don't like to read these days. So, or especially just read a whole book cover to cover. I mean, it's got to be really interesting for most people to read a book cover to cover. But it's what we all have done is gone to a bookstore, you pull a book off the shelf that you thought was interesting because of the cover or the binder or whatever, and you just flip open to a random page, right? And then hopefully something catches your eye. And so this book is literally every page is meant to be eye-catching. Not only just in the content, but also in the text design. And yeah, there's no detail that wasn't labored over for many, many hours.
I love the concept of Easter eggs. I'm
Yeah.
a big, I literally watch, my little brain candy is watching Easter egg videos of like movies that I like or, superhero movies and shows and things like that.
Yep.
And so you basically put these Easter eggs and design
Lots of
into the
Easter
book.
eggs in the design of the books. Yeah.
So cool. It's so cool. It's one of these books truly that everybody can just have sitting around and people pick it up and you will absolutely take something away from it.
Yeah.
Just reading a couple of pages. I want to ask you about a couple of my favorites from the book. And this one, I think it really, really leads into the fact I'm sitting here blown away right now. I still have not come to accept the fact that you have done this every single day since 2016. And also your life is a series of synchronicities, which we'll come back and talk to in a minute. But this coming out the 5-year anniversary, I don't know if that was planned.
No.
Of course not. I know he's going to say that. But one of the things for me is just like how in the world your discipline is magnificent. It's like Mount Rushmore discipline, like beautiful, incredible, like out of this world. And the crazy thing, when I thought about Mount Rushmore, I had a bunch of the top rappers there in my top 4. Well, I'll ask you about that in a second. But one of my favorite anecdotes from the book is where you talk about the discipline illusion.
Right.
So please talk about that.
That's where I was thinking when you said discipline. I was like, no, it's actually all an illusion. People say that, like, you're so disciplined, you write all this stuff and you do all these things. And it's like, I tell them, I'm like, no, I'm not disciplined. I'm not any more disciplined than anybody else. What I have done, though, is I have been very honest with myself about my flaws and my tendencies to cut corners and shortcut and as a result of that, I can put myself in proximity to the things that I want to do. So for instance, in that particular dose of inspiration you're referring to, I mentioned writing my first book and how that process actually happened, because it was like I was dragging my feet. It was a self-published thing. I was dragging my feet for 3.5 years, working on it a little bit here, a little bit there, but never really getting momentum on it, and just tired of thinking about it after a while. And my buddy Drew, who I came to him one day with a contract that I had made out and a check for $4,000, post dated for 3 months from that day. And the contract said, Drew, I'm giving you this check for $4,000, post dated to such and such date. My agreement is to finish this book that I'm working on. If I don't finish it, and if it's not ready to literally go to print by that date, you are obligated to take this check for $4,000 and cash it and spend it on whatever you want. And then he signed it and I signed it, right? So now after that, there's no way I wasn't going to finish that book because I couldn't afford to lose $4,000. Yeah. And I ended up finishing it like a week early just in case, anything happened. I didn't want any ambiguity or anything like that. And so that was a way to kick my own ass into finishing that project. And then I talked about, working out. Like I work out all the time. I love working out, but I don't love driving to the gym. I don't love having to work out by myself. And I know that if that's the circumstance, I'm probably going to talk myself out of it if I'm a little bit busy. But if I find a place that's close to where I'm living and maybe that has group workouts, then I'm way more inclined to go. And so that's what I did. I found a place that was, had a group workouts that I could join, and it was within walking distance, and I started working out all the time. And then one of the other examples was junk food, like eating better. And I said, I know myself. I know if I go to the grocery store and I'm hungry, I'm going to end up with a shopping cart full of stuff that I probably shouldn't be eating, right? And I'll have all kinds of really important justifications for it as well, because that's what happens in the brain. So I know that I need to eat something before I walk into a grocery store. And if I can just make sure I eat something, even if what I eat before I go in there isn't the greatest, but then it's going to positively impact what I put in the shopping cart. So those kinds of things, that anybody can do. And I'm really big on pulling the veil back and showing people behind the curtain, because I don't want anybody thinking I'm special or I'm like somehow more gifted or have more access to inspiration than anyone else. It's like, no, I just have done these things. Like with meditation, I struggled for 3 or 4 years to meditate. The reason why I'm so accessible now as a meditation teacher is because I paid somebody a lot of money at the time to show me the nuts and bolts of this practice so I could really understand it inside and out. And it changed my entire relationship with meditation. And I literally went from a reluctant meditator who was doing it sometimes to an enthusiastic daily meditator. And that person eventually ended up teaching me how to teach other people how to meditate. But it was all, very, very pricey, but it's something that I was so passionate about. And as a result, I became very good at it. And now I help other people get very good at meditation. So yeah, it's just about being honest with myself about where I am.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And you just gave so many good examples. One of those is, putting a risk in front of you, a loss if you don't follow through. Another one is an investment that you make, making you more accountable.
That's right.
It's basically understanding yourself, understanding your strengths and weaknesses as you talk about. And the thing is, we know ourselves, we know those spots. But I think a lot of times we give a lot more credit to our weaknesses. Mm-hmm. We don't acknowledge our strengths. Mm-hmm. And within those weaknesses, we just generally use them as an out rather than using them as an opportunity. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things, and this, you say this specifically in the book, you say, are you lacking in discipline in certain areas of your life? If so, that just means you're normal. And in the context of habit change, and I want to talk more about this, asking ourselves with this habit change that we want, is it a proximity issue? Is there a way to bring it closer? And so for you with the gym, like you like to work out, but if things start to get busy, it'll hit a lower tier of importance and it'll just kind of eliminate itself. But if for example, that it's really close, or in this context, I want to ask you about, if somebody's wanting to have a habit change of just a generally healthier lifestyle, how can you get in proximity to that? For me, I'm a big fan of people. and being around, if you're wanting to change your health, getting yourself around healthier people, getting yourself in proximity of that thing. So can you talk a little bit more about proximity?
Yeah, well, I actually have there's another one in here that I think is really the root cause, because you mentioned it at the very beginning of this conversation. You talked about stress. You asked me about stress. And I would say that stress is really the root cause of why we put ourselves either further away from whatever it is that we say we want to do, or we create these crazy excuses for them. Would you mind if I read it? It's really short.
Please do.
This one is called So Gullible, and I think it'll explain everything. So people think meditation makes you gullible, but it's actually stress that makes you gullible. Stress makes you crave French fries, cookies, and wine. Stress makes you come up with important sounding excuses about why you can't exercise. Stress makes you think the reason you're tossing and turning at night is because you don't have the right mattress. Stress keeps you locked in codependent relationships with emotionally unavailable partners. Stress makes you do foolish things that you have to apologize for later. Stress even makes you think you're incapable of meditating because your mind is too busy. Meanwhile, meditation makes you bold. Meditation makes it hard to put up with somebody else's bullshit. Meditation makes it almost impossible to remain in a dead-end job or in a bad relationship. Meditation makes you stand up for others and follow your heart with no fallback plan. Meditation allows you to be guided by your intuition instead of your fear. Meditation helps you accept others and let go of the need to control. It's meditation that helps you sleep like a baby, even though you don't have it all figured out. So it's really stress, man. It really comes down to when you have a lot of stress, you're going to talk yourself out of doing the things that you know deep down, I should be moving my body more. I really should be eating more plants. I really should be forging more meaningful relationships. I don't want to be on social media for hours at a time. I don't want to be watching pornography all the time. I don't want to be gossiping all the time. All these things that we do in the moment is kind of like junk food, but then it makes us feel terrible afterward. That's all stress based. So when we can get that stuff out in whatever ways we are able to get it out, I recommend meditation, but again, that's not the only way. Then naturally, as a byproduct, it makes you want to work out. You want to go move your body, right? Because you don't have that stress weighing you down saying, nah, just stay on the couch. You don't need to go anywhere. You worked too hard at your job this week. Just chill out, have a donut, have some wine, that kind of stuff. So I think instead of trying to, find hacks for going and doing the things we're supposed to do, just get the stress out. If you get the stress out, then your natural inclination will be to do all the things that you naturally want to do deep down.
I would think that this would make it easier to access inspiration, because ultimately 100%. This is what your book is really helping us to cultivate. So could you talk a little bit about your definition or your perception of what inspiration is, first and foremost?
Yeah, man. So inspiration is it's a Latin root word. It means to blow into, and that what that indicates is that there are ideas that come into us. They're divine ideas that come to us, and it initiates some sort of activity or way of thinking about something or a feeling tone. And I think the mistake that we make with inspiration is we think we have to go out and find it, right? But what I'm helping the reader do is to cultivate it within. That's why, again, it's called knowing where to look, is because instead of looking outside of yourself for this, it's really about redirecting the attention back into your own life experience. Like, you don't have to be Shawn Stevenson. You don't have to be like Watkins in order to find inspiration. You don't have to even, go out and exercise in order to be inspired. It's the inspiration that initiates the thought to go and exercise, or the thought to go and do these other things that you naturally want to do, paint pictures and, go give a TED talk, or something. It's that the inspiration is actually the root cause. What we have to do is we have to facilitate it. And the way you facilitate it really is just by being present to it. So then how do you become present to it? Well, most of us in our normal conventional society are not very present. We're just not. We're either thinking about something in the future or we are regretting something from the past. But very few people are actually in the present moment. And so the ways we can cultivate that in very simple, easy, accessible ways, it's not rocket science. Again, it's just, gratitude is one easy way. You don't have to sit and meditate. Just be grateful. Like literally list 5 things you're grateful for in this moment. And if you can't think about 5 things you're grateful for, list 5 things you can notice in this moment. What is it? What is the taste? What is the smell, the sight, sound, the feeling? Bring that into the moment. And what happens is you start to see inspiration that's been hiding all around you in plain sight. And it just may be the way the color falls on the wall in front of you, or it could be a sound that you weren't aware of before. And then you get these little tiny mini impulses. And the impulse may be get up and go out to the backyard with your shoes off and just ground. And you're like, that's weird. Like that's our initial reaction. No, that's weird. I'm going to look weird. Everyone's going to think I'm weird, right? But here's the thing. When we think about the concept of inspiration, people think, okay, if I'm inspired, that's going to cause me to go and do this thing, and I'm going to start this company and I'm going to be successful. It's like, no, that's not how inspiration works. Inspiration, the way you know you're being inspired is it challenges you. It challenges you. It's gonna nudge you in the direction of something that stretches you. Just like me writing these daily emails. Like when I got that idea, I was like, oh, my first reaction is, because there was a combination of excitement around it. Just like if you were going to be in a Iron Man or something like that, like there's some excitement, but then there's this other side to it, which is like, this thing is going to break me. I don't know if I'm ready for that, So that's how it's legitimate inspiration. Like that's kind of on a bigger scale of inspiration, but a smaller scale of inspiration, everybody's had this experience, right? You're in an elevator. Someone is next to you. What do people do in the elevator? They either look at the numbers or they look down at the floor. You rarely acknowledge the other person, right? And maybe you're looking down at the floor. Fine, right? That's what we all do. Maybe you notice this person is wearing Yves Saint Laurent shoes. And you're like, wow, those are some cool ass Yves Saint Laurent high tops. And look at the paint splashes on this brother's jeans. This dude has got style, right? You having this whole conversation to yourself, beard is on point, everything. And so something inside of you may say, just, compliment the dude. Nah, that's going to sound, you start working on your mind, starts working on you. Your ego starts working on you. I'm going to look silly. I'm going to look gay. I'm going to look this. I'm going to look that. It's like, just go with the impulse, whatever it is, right? And if you can get used to going with it and listening to it and acting upon it in the little times, and you do that over and over and over, then when you get the big impulse, write the daily email, quit the dead-end job, explore a different way of relating to your partner, go camping, even though you've never been camping, all these bigger things, then you're more inclined to do those things. And then ultimately it culminates into, maybe go nomadic or whatever your version of that is, right? Which is, start this nonprofit but here's the other thing. It's almost always about service. Ultimately, when you extrapolate any inspiration, it's about service. Like complimenting you is less about my ego and it's more about just acknowledging the effort that you are giving to the world, right? That's service. That's a service. That's an act of service or an act of kindness, whatever you want to call it. And it's not about me, right? And that's how you know that's how you can separate is this an ego impulse or an inspiration impulse? Because there's different voices in there too. And you have to split test it. And you're not always going to get it right. Sometimes it will be an ego inspired action. And you'll learn from that. You'll learn, okay, that's how that made me feel. It wasn't the best feeling compared to when I'm really inspired and acting in service to other people. That makes me feel much better. And so maybe in the beginning years, when you're really intentional about it, 6 out of the 10 times that you're acting on these impulses, they're inspired. And then the other 4 out of 10 times they're ego driven. And so then the next year you're at 7 out of 10, and the next year. So take the long view, right? This is a never ending process. It's ever refining, and you just get better and better at recognizing it. And then you get better at trusting it. And then ultimately you get better at following it. And when you can follow it, you won't know what's going to happen. That's part of the deal. That's how you know it's inspiration. I don't know how this is going to turn out. I'm going to write these emails. I don't know how it's going to turn out. I did not set out 5 years ago to write a book called Knowing Where to Look. And this is what I'm going to do to practice it. I just was following it. I was scared, I was scared I was going to run out of material within the first month, which happened. But, you don't get, I wouldn't have understood that it was going to come through me until I actually put in those first 3 weeks. And then I got the next step in the blueprint, right? And that's what's so beautiful about it, because it turns into this adventure.
Yeah, it brought qualities out of you that you didn't know that were dormant.
It made me have to look actively for inspiration in every experience I was in. I could have been in the hospital, wherever I was. I had to attune my ears and my eyes to something that I felt naturally inspired by.
And they were already present. That's the beautiful part about it too. Mm-hmm. This is I've never heard this before put framed like this, but this kind of brings to mind that so many things in our lives they function sort of like a muscle, and it's that use it or lose it. And it's also, if you work on the thing, you become stronger and more versed at it. So working on our inspiration muscles, essentially. And so I love that exercise of doing the small thing when you feel that. But also here's the big thing too. When you said it earlier, this is going to make you uncomfortable or this is going to stretch you, I immediately thought oh, people not going to like that. We don't like that. We are, funny enough, we want change, but we don't want to change, and change of ourselves and our character is often required, always required for something new, that thing that we might aspire to. So getting to that place, and I love that you giving us that gift of just working, do the small inspiration to build that muscle, because you creating the life that you want and tapping into those big inspirational hits that we all get, we've got to be more comfortable with knowing that we're going to be stretched. Mm-hmm. So that's incredibly powerful. Now, I've got to ask you this question, because you mentioned how earlier we can get kind of distracted. We can get pulled out of the present, which I would think a lot of the inspiration is going to be more accessible in the now. Mm-hmm. How do you feel that our really fast-paced way of living, in a sense, and also our constant stream of media and social media, can muffle our accessibility to inspiration?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I mean, there's so many ways to get distracted from it. Alcohol distracts us from it. Any substances will distract you from it. That basically anything that takes you out of the present moment. So the news, as you've posted recently, is 90% negative. So, when you're in that space, now you're in stress mode, and stress mode means fight or flight, which means anything but the present moment. And so but it's tough to expect people to just, who's been obsessed with the news for decades, to just stop watching the news. It's probably not going to happen. So then it comes back to whatever your foundational practices are. So if you can, and this is the displacement theory, right? Don't worry about changing your lifestyle at all. Just keep doing what you're doing. And then add in just one practice, whether it's gratitude. I like gratitude because it's something you don't have to sit and close your eyes to do, although you can. All you need is, you don't have to write anything down. You have your thoughts. You just consciously place your thoughts on item after item or experience after experience that you're grateful for. And it shifts you. It shifts you. Another one is breath work, right? Again, you don't have to be a master or guru or anything. You can just breathe. Everyone can breathe deep. You can breathe inhale. You can inhale deeply. You can exhale deeply. You can do that 10 times. It will shift you. And if you have an inclination to sit and close your eyes for 5 or 10 minutes, it will shift you. And if you do those things regularly enough, you will feel less inclined to do the other things over time. It won't happen overnight, but over time, you'll feel less inclined to watch all that negativity in the media and to consume all the, junk, whether it's food or whether it's information. And then gradually you'll find yourself more inclined to follow the voice of inspiration as well.
Yeah. You won't have to force yourself.
You don't ever have to force yourself.
Because it just won't fit anymore.
No. But here's the other thing. It's happening anyway. It's going to happen. On my podcast, At the End of the Tunnel, I just interviewed this guy named Marlon Peterson, who's doing amazing work with kids. He's got these youth programs, mentoring kids. He came up very tough in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, and got robbed and beat up and bullied and all the things during his childhood. Marlon ended up getting involved in a robbery when he was 19 years old, which then took him to prison for 12 years. He got sentenced 12 years in prison, spent 10 years in prison. That's where he discovered his calling, in prison, right? And so life is usually taking you in one of two directions. It's taking you the pain route, and that's how you're going to find your inspiration. Or you can kind of catch the wave of inspiration earlier, which takes you on the adventure route, which means I don't know how this is going to turn out, but I'm trusting because this is lighting my heart up. So I'm trusting that when I keep taking steps in this direction, and it's scary too. Prison is scary. And the adventure route is scary. They're both going to be scary routes, right? But the adventure route is a lot more enjoyable ultimately.
You're microdosing the pain.
Yeah, you're microdosing. And you're almost kind of putting yourself in that situation. So, you really, it's embedded within your spiritual DNA to find your passion, your purpose, your calling. The question is, how do you want to get there? Do you want to go the easy way or do you want to go the hard way? Because they're both taking you there. It's just one looks like it's the funny thing about it is the easy way, that what looks like the easy way is actually the hard way. What looks like the hard way, the uncomfortable way, because you actually have to choose the discomfort. That's actually the fast track. That's the easy route. That's the adventure route. So, but we're all going there, and if you keep the camera rolling long enough, you'll see that by the end of the life, everybody gets there.
Take the path less traveled.
Yeah.
Right? Or take your own path.
Take your own. It's always your own path.
These little monikers, like
Joseph Campbell said, if you can see your path before you, that's not your path. Mm-hmm. That's not it.
Mm-hmm. I love that. This is bringing to light this really important thing, which is, and this is getting outside of the realm of what we can fully explain, but so many people have experienced it. I'm a big proponent of, peer-reviewed evidence. Like I love that stuff. It's just like we can use science to affirm and discover certain things, certain principles about life and reality, but it's still limited. We know so little. And just to provide a context, like right now, we don't understand how gravity works. We're just kind of planted here on this planet. We're spinning around in this immense, massive universe. And if we talk about the known universe, like we know now there are billions of galaxies. We're in one. There are billions of other galaxies. And so the expansion of our knowledge of how stuff works is tiny. It's nothing. but we find a comfort in affirming things and trying to prove things, right? So I want to preface with this, and that thing that I'm talking about is these synchronicities and these kind of happy accidents and these things that connect. Many people have thought about somebody and then they'll send them a text. You'll get a text from that person, or you'll run into them, out of the blue. Maybe it's somebody you haven't seen in 5 years and they, pop up in your mind, or, you'll be, now your phone's listening to you though now. So just to be clear, like I was just talking to my girlfriend about these yoga pants, and then they got this ad for yoga. They're listening. No, but even how we met, we bumped into each other. I was coming out of a coffee shop, and then you were along with Drew, and I'm assuming you knew a little bit about me, and then boom, here we were in front of each other. And that's literally how we met in the first place, And so just holding that space in our minds, maybe it's like an idea, it's a person or experience. And it's funny how these things continue to show up when you go with the inspiration. Mm-hmm. So you start the book off sharing a story, which I don't know if I want to give away right now, because I'm reading the story and I'm just riveted, like, what? No way. But you jumped on that inspiration. It was probably incredibly uncomfortable, but it landed you even here today where you are, So if you can, speak a little bit about that dynamic of reality that, it happens for all of us. It's happening a lot, actually, but maybe we can't quite describe what it is.
Yeah, you're referring to this. It's a story about these remarkable string of coincidences that happened to me when I quit a job. I quit my first real job out of college. I had this idea that I didn't really know where it came from, to go to Paris. And so took a leap of faith. Didn't have any money, didn't have any connections, didn't know the language. And then just bought a one-way ticket to Paris and missed a couple flights, and landed there, went to go.
Wait, you purposefully missed those flights though?
Yeah, purposely missed the flights. And ended up getting vouchers. So I made some money at the airport unexpectedly
for a possible trip back.
Yeah. And then the first day there, I ran into some friends in the most coincidental, random, serendipitous way that I didn't know were there. One of them happened to have a spare apartment that I stayed in. So everything that I needed was all set within about 3 hours of landing there. And what was interesting was the timing of it all, because if I had missed those flights, I wouldn't have run into those people when I did. So it's like, even though it looked like things were just happening randomly, you could make the argument that one serendipitous moment is just coincidence. Two, maybe there were like 5 or 6 things that I was aware of that happened that kind of landed me right to where these people were. And I would argue that this is happening all the time. But again, it's like, if you're present to the moment, you're able to see it a lot easier than not. Otherwise, it just looks a little bit blurry. It's kind of like, I'm in my 40s now. I don't know about you, but my eyesight is in the mornings is not as good as it is in the latter part of the day.
You got that Spider-Man vision.
Yeah, so I got some reading glasses from the grocery store, like the old man reading glasses. I haven't worn them. I just got them.
Let me get my glasses.
And every now and again, I put them on, and it's like, wow. It's like it goes from SD to HD, with the glasses on. It's like you can see all the little details and the nuances of everything. But without the glasses on, I feel like I can still read well enough to get by. So I don't really think about it much. But I feel like inspiration is all around us like that. Once you cultivate it, it's like having those HD inspiration glasses on, and you can start to see it. It's actually all around you. But without cultivating it, it just looks a little bit, maybe is that coincidence? Maybe, yeah. It's really easy to dismiss.
This is something I talked about back in the day a little bit on the show, but for me, it's blending intention along with inspiration and action as well. And I did this, I read a book or, read a post. I garnered some inspiration from something in the first place, and I did the thing. I followed along. It was to accomplish 100 goals in 100 days. Now, the hardest part was writing the 100 goals. That took several days to do. And it was a combination of big things, moderate things, and a lot of small things. And those small things really helped to exercise that muscle of like something is happening. And so I did it. And I had things like, get a lawnmower. We needed a lawnmower at the time. Get a washing machine. We needed a washing machine. But then big goals like do a television segment. I'd never done that before. I was just in my clinical practice and teaching some classes at the time. And what happened within that week of writing down those goals was beyond my explanation. I literally was driving down the street, headed to the gym, and there was a practically new lawnmower with a sign that said free lawnmower on it. This really happened. I wouldn't believe this. And so I drove past it for maybe like a block before my brain, like, what? And then I hit reverse, went back, and I had an SUV I was driving. And I put that bad boy in the back of my truck. And then that was the lawnmower. And the same thing, my grandmother had recently passed. And my uncle called me and was just like, hey, we've got this washing machine. I know she would want you to have it. So the washing machine showed up within that week as well. And I ended up on television. It was probably maybe 2 to 3 weeks later for the first time. And now all of these things could just be like, oh, those are just coincidences, right? It's just luck. And we can play with these acronyms. I love the acronym I got from Michael Beckwith, luck being living under cosmic knowledge. Right? And there was an intention there. So I got clear on the things that I wanted. And for me, it's just like, I'm still trying to science explain it. And like, the reticular activating system, the reticular cortex, filtering what I'm seeing in the environment. But there's also a part of that thing and you coming in contact with each other. And so this leads into like, is there a little bit of energy that's intersecting with those things and putting you in proximity? And then if we look at, some of the quantum dynamics, just the process of having a thought creates an influence on the world around us, right? And so this starts for me to like get a place of more comfortability with the concept of synchronicity. But what I wanted to ask you about and to encourage other people to do is, number one, set an intention, of course, and allow for these synchronicities to take place. I had a journal, I stopped doing this, of writing them down when these things would happen, because they would trip me out. And I stopped doing that because it became so normal. But also, and I want to talk to you about this part, the action part, because it didn't just like come to me. I was just out in the world doing things as well. It doesn't mean you have to be doing a certain thing, because I would imagine, do you have to be doing a certain thing for that thing to show up in your life? Or do you just kind of start moving in the world and taking action?
Yeah, man, I think it's all embedded in our spiritual DNA, the whole path, I'm not saying that everything is pre-written necessarily, but I just think it's like GPS, right? In the sense that there's a destination, and that destination could be learning a spiritual lesson of forgiveness or love or what have you. And maybe that's a 70-year, 80-year process. And so within that destination, there is this internal guidance, like a GPS. And with GPS in your car, it doesn't force you to go in that direction. But whenever you veer off of the direct path, what does it do? It reroutes you. It says, okay, it's fine, you can go this way, but then the way you get back that way is to take these other turns. And I think it's a lot like that. So I think the potential to intersect with coincidence to whatever you feel inside is always there. It's always present no matter where you are. But the argument I like to introduce to the conversation is, because I think deep down, and I may be projecting, but I think deep down everybody kind of either agrees that there's some sort of higher intelligence or some sort of path that they're on, because we take credit for it when good things happen. Like if you have a lot of abundance or if you have a lot of love, people start to become experts about this. This is what I did. I read 5 love languages, or I read Attached, and I did these things, or I've been working out, of course. I've been meditating, of course, right? So it's easy to take credit when things seem to be going your way. But what about when things go left, right? Now we start to look at, oh gosh, what am I doing? I'm feeling blocked, I'm stuck, and blah, blah. We start going into that realm. And what I like to do, and what I want to do with this book, is show people that, well, you're still manifesting. You're still on your path, even though it looks like you've hit a brick wall, right? That's still a part of what you're ultimately creating for yourself. And one of the examples that I give it's a story called Phantom Delays. It's something that actually happened to me. Crazy thing, man. I was teaching yoga years and years ago in LA, and I had my commute timed out. I was in West Hollywood, and it took me like 5 minutes to drive to the place where I was teaching. So I would give myself 15 minutes, and I had plenty of time to drive there, get a tea, walk upstairs, set up my music, introduce, meet people. And so this morning, it was like a random Wednesday morning, 10 o'clock. There shouldn't be any traffic. Well, there was a huge traffic jam, backed up, bumper to bumper. I was like, what the hell? So of course, being the savvy LA driver that I am, I'm zigzagging to alleys and other streets, still traffic on all these other options. So I'm just like, man, this is crazy. But now I didn't leave enough time for me to be stuck in traffic, so I'm running late, and I hate being late. So now I'm like working on myself, like, oh my God, I'm late. They're going to, I'm giving them permission to come late. I have this whole storyline around being late, not being perfect as a teacher. What am I teaching? So I get to the main intersection after sitting in this traffic for like 10 minutes. And then all of a sudden the traffic just clears up. And I'm looking around at the intersection. I'm like, you're looking for like an accident. Is the president in town? Was there a construction? Was somebody going crazy in the middle of the road? Like what was the deal with the traffic? I didn't see anything. So now I'm even more pissed because I have nothing to blame it on. I'm just late, right? So I get to the class 10 minutes late, and I'm like bolting up the stairs, and then I slow down because I'm the yoga teacher, so I gotta be calm. Can't be seen rushing, right? But inside I'm like pissed, and I'm anxious, and I'm late. And I get to the room, and I see all the students are in the back of the room, and there's some guys in the front of the room with brooms. And I go in there, and I can feel little shards of glass underneath my flip-flops. And I look up, man, in the front of the class, in the front middle of the class, there's a whole wall of mirrors. The middle mirror, somehow the pane of mirror dislodged right in the middle, right where I would have been sitting, and came crashing down on the floor. Right where I would have been sitting. And it happened right at the top of the hour. So if I had gotten there on time, I would have been sitting right there when that big 9-foot mirror came crashing down. So that phantom traffic jam that I was cursing 15 minutes before was actually saving my life, or at least saving me from having a very bad start to the day.
We be calling you Mr. Glass.
Or something. Mr.
Mirror.
Stitches. Hey, there's Stitchy. Come on in, Stitchy, for the interview. And I'd be telling a story about how I was in the hospital for 4 months. No, man. But so the idea behind that story is it's not just the good stuff that means you're on track. It's also when it looks like life is not going your way. It's the whole concept of rejection equals protection, which again is like a positive thought thing. We click, double tap. Oh, it sounds great. But those are the moments that take us out of our presence, right? But what if we can get into a place of inspiration where we can sit in that and understand, or at least trust that, hey, I'm in this experience And I've done everything I could to, do my best and all of that. And so if I'm still being blocked, then there's a pretty good chance that I'm being spared something much, much worse than just being in this little old traffic jam, right? And that's something that has shown up a lot in my life as well. And I've put as many of those stories in the book as possible because I wanted people to be able to relate to those kinds of things, And when you can like sit back and sit in that, then you can see things and hear things and feel things that are all around you that you would not have gotten before because you were stuck in the future or stuck in the past.
Wow, man, that's powerful. That's really powerful. There's so many things I want to ask you about, and there's so many wonderful things in the book. But before I let you go, I've got to ask you about this because I know a lot of folks, it's going to be coming up that I want to follow my inspiration. I don't mind, going after the different things that might show up, but I'm just so busy. There's so much going on in my life. I just don't have the time to do it. And this is one of the things in my clinical practice that I saw most often people would use as their reason, very justified, that they're too busy for fill in the blank. And you've got one of the stories that you talk about in the book. It's called While You're Busy.
I'm pulling it up right now.
And that one really, I love that one so much, because again, it's one of the biggest reasons that we give for not accessing our greatness. So let's talk about this particular one, While You're Busy.
So, man, I came to you when I was thinking about launching my podcast, and I said, Shawn, you got any advice for me? And you were very generous with helping me out. And one of the biggest obstacles that I was having was just, how do you have time to do all of this on top of everything else? And I think one of the misconceptions that people sometimes have is that those of us who are doing these kinds of things, that somehow life slows down for us, and the idea behind this piece, While You're Busy, is that successful people just are more willing to do more than what the average person is willing to do. In other words, they do it while they're busy. And that's the secret, is to just do it while you're busy. Because life is not going to slow down anytime soon. If you want to start your daily meditation practice, you want to write a book, you want to start your podcast, you're going to have to do it while you're busy.
It sounds so simple, but it also can sound impossible. How on earth can we start while we're busy?
Well, here's the thing. Let's change the question, right? Let's say that you do well in your podcast. You've been doing it for a long time. How many episodes in are you? 500 something?
Close to 500.
Close to 500 episodes. Okay, so
sounds crazy already.
I know you've had millions and millions of downloads. You have sponsors. Everything. And let's say you continue going, which you probably will, and this happens, and you get your studio, custom studio and all that. And you're one of the biggest podcast names out there, right? It's you and then Joe Rogan and then whoever else. So Spotify comes to you and offers you, your $200 million deal to exclusively distribute your podcast on Spotify, right? Now, that's where it ends up. So then let's take it back to day one. And let's say you had a proposition and someone said, okay, Shawn, all you got to do is just start the podcast and then you'll have a $200 million payday in 20 years. Everybody would do it, right? Everybody would do it because it's like you do the math in your head and you say, okay, well, it's going to be hard and I'm busy, but it's going to be $200 million. I can help a lot of people with $200 million, right? So I'll do what I have to do to get to that point. But the problem is we don't have the benefit of knowing what's going to happen later on down the line. So what we are invited to do and what we have an opportunity to do is trust in the process that if I do my best with what I have available right now, then the next step in the plan is going to come to me right when I need it, right? And there's a story in the book that just came to mind. It's about Moses. I don't know if you read that one about Moses, but it's a biblical story. It's a very, very common story that a lot of people know, but there's one detail that most people don't know that I came across. And so this is Moses at the burning bush. We all know that story, right? God is speaking to Moses through this self-effulgent burning bush. And God basically is directing Moses. He's not asking him to. He's directing Moses to go to Pharaoh and request that Pharaoh let his people go, the Hebrews, who are essentially Pharaoh's slaves. And so I don't know about you, but I'm old enough to remember the original Moses movie, right, by Cecil B. DeMille. Charleston Heston was the lead character. He played Moses, very charismatic and all of that, and the staff, and, very confident. Well, that wasn't the reality of that situation. The reality of the situation was Moses was reluctant. He was very scared. He was not sure of himself. And he was just this guy. He was a regular guy, right? So a regular guy at a burn, it's like you being up in, one of these Laurel Canyon or something, or Runyon or something, and you see this burning bush, and you're getting this message supposedly from God, right? We don't really know. And no one's going to believe you. And God is saying, you have to go to Vladimir Putin and tell him to release all the oil, or else, right? You're going to go to the most dangerous person in all of Russia and demand that he let go of his property and basically give it over to you. Now, here's the other component to that. Scholars have now said that Moses had a speech impediment. Moses was a stutterer.
So he wasn't even fully Moses yet. He was like, people called him Little Mo.
Right.
Little Mo, you was talking to a
Slow
bush.
Mo. Slow Mo. So imagine you have a stutter and God, through the burning bush, is telling you to go to the most dangerous man in the land, right? And demand that he let his property go. So naturally, Moses is like, I think you got the wrong person. You don't want me. I wasn't even supposed to be here today. I don't know who was supposed to be here. I can go find somebody. And God's like, no, you're exactly who I wanted. So then once Moses kind of gets his head around this idea, he asks the next most sensible question that anybody would ask, right? All right. Let's suppose, just hypothetically, I was able to pull this off and get in front of Pharaoh. What am I supposed to say? And God said, don't worry about that. Just get there and then you'll know what to say. Right? And that's what we all do. That's the game we all play with ourselves. We have these big ideas and these dreams and these passions, and we fantasize about it, but we don't think we have everything that we would need in order to really pull it off. So we talk ourselves out of it. We let ourselves off the hook. And so the whole idea behind this is to remind us that you don't need to know the whole thing. You just have to know enough to take the first step. Just get in front of Pharaoh. Whatever your version of that is, whatever scares the hell out of you, whatever you don't think you're qualified to do, just take the first step in that direction, and then the next step is going to get revealed to you. And that next step is going to lead you to the third step and the fourth and like that. And before you know it, you'll have your podcast, you'll have your book, you'll have your class, you'll have your family, you'll have your garden, whatever your thing is. But you got to take that first step. And there's another saying that I always remembered. It's not in the book, but it's something that I just walk around with all the time. It's from the book Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh, where God tells Neil Donald Walsh in that book, he says, look, you can relax to the extent that you can trust in life. You are relaxed to the extent that you trust in life. If you're anxious and all of that, that's an indication that you're not trusting in your own process. And the trust in the process means you just take it one step at a time. Once you start projecting beyond that step, you get into anxious mode, right? Pull back, just take a few deep breaths. What can you do right now with what you have? And that's it, right? And it can be that simple when we just keep it in the moment.
Yeah. So many great people that we say their names, have given us something very similar. Martin Luther King Jr. said, you don't have to see the whole staircase, just take the first step.
He was petrified in the beginning when they nominated him to lead the Montgomery bus boycott. 26 years old, new family, didn't want to be in the front, reluctant, just like Moses was, petrified. But here's the other thing. Once you step into that role, you've come to realize, I'm actually not so bad at this. I'm actually pretty good at this. Next thing you know, you're throwing down staffs, it's turning into snakes. You're making it rain toads. You're doing all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah, same thing with Martin Luther King Jr. They ain't call him that at first. It was Marty Marr.
Right.
Then he became, by
Gandhi, petrified in the beginning.
Yeah.
Gandhi G.
Yeah. So this is so incredible, man. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom.
100%, man. Thanks for offering your platform for me to share.
Yeah, it's always.
If you hadn't taken all the steps you've taken, and all the trusting you've done, then we wouldn't be having this conversation. So I appreciate you.
What is one of the biggest myths around meditation?
One of the biggest ones is that all meditation is the same, right? When people say, "Oh, I meditate," right? Mm-hmm. They could be talking about anything.
Yeah.
And if you ask 100 people who identify themselves as meditation teachers, how do you meditate? You're going to get 100 different answers. And some of them will be drastically different. Someone may say, well, you meditate lying down, and that's how you do it. Mm-hmm. And someone else may say, well, no, you meditate while you're walking through the forest. And someone else might say you meditate by just taking your shoes off and going and standing on the earth. And that's meditation. Someone else may say you meditate sitting straight up. Someone else may say you meditate on a silent retreat. Someone else may say you meditate with a mantra. You meditate with rosary beads. You meditate with music. You meditate with, whatever. And so because meditation is such a very type of experience, then it creates a lot of confusion when someone earnestly wants to learn how to meditate. And the people, there's no regulatory board for who can call themselves a meditation teacher and who's not qualified to call themselves a meditation teacher. Yeah. Anyone, you could wake up tomorrow and say, you know what, I'm a meditation teacher now.
The best.
And you can get on Squarespace and create a website and get on Vistaprint and, and not to advertise these people, but you can create websites, you can create stationery, you can basically, if you know what you're doing, you can make yourself look like you're the king of that thing within about a week. And so, there's a lot of that happening out there. And the market nowadays with meditation has become very saturated because people are seeing it as a market opportunity to get a population of people who are seeking something to come in and experience whatever they're offering. So you have people who, I've seen gyrotonic meditation, Zumba meditation, dog meditate, whatever people were doing for yoga before, now they're tagging meditation with that. And, the intention is good. And I don't doubt that they don't feel that their practice is meditation, because what most people mean by that is that this thing, if you do it, it can be meditative, meaning you won't be thinking about much else while you're doing it. And that's where people say, my sport is my meditation, my cycling, my crocheting. And so that's, again, it's a situation where they're describing an experience where you're not so much preoccupied or distracted by things that are happening in the past or future. You're kind of locked into what's happening now. So I would argue that the best type of meditation for the biggest impact would be a seated, eyes closed practice. But even within the seated, eyes closed practice style of meditation, there are two broad categories. There are your monastic traditions, and then there are your householder traditions. Now, mostly what we think about when we think about meditation, tends to lean towards monastic, which is to say all the things we think are required in order to be successful at meditation, right? Let's just list a couple of them. Sitting with the legs crossed, sitting with the back straight, being able to sit in that way for a long stretch of time, being a calm person, being a vegetarian, right? If we were able to have these sort of traits naturally, then one would look at us and assume, oh, you probably would be good at meditation. Whereas me, I can't sit with my legs straight. I have a problem sitting with my legs crossed. I have a problem sitting with my back straight. I'm not that calm. In fact, I have a little bit of an anger issue when I'm driving. I love meat. I can't stand eating vegetarian food. I'm probably not that good at meditation. So what they're alluding to is the monastic tradition. But guess what? You're not off the hook, because there are householder techniques where you don't have to be vegetarian. You don't have to sit with your legs crossed. You don't have to sit with your back straight. You can actually sit in the same position that you would sit if you were binge watching Friends or some television show on Netflix. And you don't have to try to focus on anything. You don't have to be calm when you're doing it. You can let your mind be very, very chaotic and busy, and it's still impactful. So what I've been teaching and advocating for is the householder approach to meditation, because it's the one that is best suited for our current modern day lifestyle.
Oh, yeah, man, there's a lot of great nuggets there. And I think, of course, when people think about meditation, there's this image that you have
Right.
of that, what is it, monastic?
Monastic, yeah.
And
You think about a guy with a robe or the Buddha
Right.
statue, and that's how I'm supposed to look when I meditate.
Exactly. And they're like, that's the pinnacle, right? Your objective is kind of different, the lifestyle even associated with that. That's like they're trying to reach, samadhi or nirvana or enlightenment. I truly feel this, that there are so many people walking around that are already enlightened and oftentimes don't even know it, because of their particular practice. And I think you also reiterated that there are many paths to the goal, and you mentioned that in the book as well. And what you're looking for is just best practices for people.
And that's what often gets overlooked, right? Meditation is as much of an art as it is a science. And like any art, ballet, archery, floral arrangement, there are best practices. And when you know how to employ the best practices, you end up creating a level of efficiency that you wouldn't have otherwise. And it's not to say it's going to happen overnight, but the more you practice those mechanics and principles, the more efficient the experience will start to feel. And then that is what leads to success, which I define as a meditation practice that you actually look forward to doing, that you actually enjoy. Imagine that, waking up in the morning and you are as excited about meditating as you are about eating breakfast or about cuddling with your partner or about playing with your dog or whatever turns you on in the morning. Imagine having meditation fall into that category. And when your relationship with meditation becomes that strong, then it becomes a practice that you literally start to do every day. And that's where you're going to get the benefits. You're not going to get the benefits from meditating once or twice a week or doing it for 2 minutes. You see all these gimmicks, 2-minute meditation, 1-minute meditation, 30-second meditation. It's like saying a 2-minute workout, right? I mean, yeah, you can do jumping jacks or push-ups for 2 minutes or burpees or whatever. But if you really want to see some big changes in your body, you're going to have to eventually do something a little more substantial than that. And you're going to have to be more consistent. And there's going to have to be a system in place. And that's what I'm trying to bring about is, A, change that conversation around meditation is supposed to feel hard, and B, help people find their own system so that they can get the most out of the practice.
This is so valuable. I didn't know you was going to talk about this, and you mentioned this in the book as well, but how meditation in many ways is sort of like exercise.
Absolutely.
And
it is almost exactly like exercise.
Building this kind of internal strength in a way. And what you just mentioned now really just kind of struck a chord with me, because And me being in the fitness industry for, over a decade and a half and working with people in the gym setting as well, strength and conditioning coach, I know that the people who are successful long term and who make it a part of their lives, they fall in love with it. There's something that creates a deeper connection, like you're saying, with like you kind of fall in love with the process or the practice of meditation. Like you look forward to is like, this is yummy. This is a treat. This is something that I really enjoy doing. It gives me so much and I enjoy the process. And so we need to do that for exercise. But also you got to understand too, it's not always love at first sight,
No.
And sometimes it's just like you have to consciously find a connection. But when you find that connection, it can really change things for you.
Also, just like with exercise, if you have never exercised consistently and then you go to the gym with someone who knows what they're doing and they put you through a little program, even if it's like just a 20-minute or 30-minute workout, if that person knows what they're doing and they know how to take you through that program, right? You do it, you feel good, you sweat and all that. What's going to happen the next day? How are you going to feel? You're going to be sore as hell.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to barely be able to walk maybe or laugh. And that doesn't mean the exercise didn't work. It means that it did exactly what it was supposed to do. It broke down some muscles, it swept out some dust, and it woke some things up in your body that haven't been touched in a long time, right? The same thing applies with meditation. When we start off meditating and we've never meditated before, two things are happening. Number one, we're reconditioning the mind and the body, right, towards meditation. But number two, more importantly, we're breaking the old habit of not meditating for years and years and maybe even decades. And so the soreness of the muscles in the physical exercise is kind of like what happens with meditation with the mind. You have these really crazy, chaotic mental experiences. You may have some emotional releases surrounding your meditation practice. That doesn't mean it's not working. That's how people normally interpret this experience. It's not working. And this is the second myth I was going to talk about. This is actually a sign that it is working. Things are getting shaken up, and your mind is now going to it needs to go through this phase in order for it to be more conditioned to that settled experience that you ultimately want to have with the practice. So this idea that the mind is the enemy to the meditation is completely mistaken. The mind is not the enemy at all. In fact, the mind is noble. The mind is just going along with the ride. Mm-hmm. And what's happening is your mind is really the outpicturing of what's going on in the body. When the body is able to achieve the different states of rest and all the wonderful things that are happening within the practice itself, which we can get into in great detail if you wanted to, but there's a lot of rehabilitation happening inside of the body because the meditation, certain styles of seated meditation can actually rest the nervous system deeper than sleep, minute for minute. And you know all about that and the effects of getting that higher quality of rest in the body. And so it starts to cause the body to restore balance. And that is what can lead to an active mind in the practice. So when I hear people say, my mind is too busy in meditation, it's actually not a mental problem. It's a sign of progress. And if people knew that and they were able to reframe that experience properly, then you're going to have a lot easier time in the meditation itself, and you will end up achieving more of what you want, which is, again, that settled experience. Mm-hmm. So one of the techniques that I talk about in Bliss More is what I call the EASY approach, which is an acronym, EASY, and it stands for embrace, accept, surrender, and yield. And what I'm describing is how you want to interact with your mind while you're going through the process of meditating. You want to embrace your thoughts. You want to accept all of your experiences, surrender to them, and anything you may consider to be distracting, you want to yield to that as though this is actually what's supposed to be happening. Yeah. And that's where you're going to find the most restful, settled experiences in the meditation, if that's what you're looking for.
Wow, this is very freeing, to even put in these terms. I love that perspective. Okay, so that's covering the second myth.
Yes.
What you got? What's next? That's another myth.
Well, just the flip side of that coin is, when we talk about what makes meditation easy, and if you're doing these if you're treating your mind in this way, then we also have to look at what makes meditation hard. And again, I use hard as another acronym in the book. Hard stands for holding the position. So it's very important not to sit like you would think you should sit when you meditate. If you're trying to hold a position, if you're sitting with your back straight, what that is going to do is it's going to keep your body active. And if your body is active unnecessarily in meditation, it's going to keep your mind unnecessarily active. Now, you already may have an active mind from the body rehabilitating itself, but if you're sitting like a monk, or you're sitting, with your back completely erect and all of that, and it's not completely comfortable for you, then you're going to end up adding more content to that experience, which obviously that's the biggest complaint people tend to have. So you don't want to have that experience. So you can reduce that significantly just by sitting with back support. So that's very important. A stands for austerity, this idea that it's supposed to be hard and rigid. And if it doesn't feel rigid and hard, you're not doing it right. There's a popular advocate for meditation who's written books about it, who says this thing that I don't necessarily agree with, which is if meditation feels easy, you're either enlightened or you're not doing it right.
That's terrible.
And to me, that just sounds like, he's kind of been sold the monastic thing of meditation. And, this is really, again, going back to the first thing we talked about, the confusion. Most of these meditation books on the market are not written by meditation teachers, right? They're written by monks who may not be teaching meditation.
Keep that in mind.
They're written by doctors. They're written by psychologists, positive thought gurus, people who have, and they all have great intentions, philosophers, but they don't get into those nuances of the practice, right? And so in my situation, I've been on the front lines for a decade, meeting people from all walks of life on a weekly basis, and then tracking them over all that time and hearing what they're mainly concerned about and what the problems are and obstacles. And, you end up leaving out a lot if you don't really have that experience. And so one of the things that I wanted to bring to the market was I wanted to help fill in those gaps. Because, it's one thing to just say, oh, you're supposed to just focus on, whatever. But you could be completely misleading someone if that person wants to have a very deep and profound experience. Because it is possible to have samadhi and nirvana and Christ consciousness and bliss and enlightenment. But many of those terms, people mean different things based on their own personal experiences. So a lot of it is semantics. And it ends up elevating the practice to this thing that a lot of people feel like I can't grasp, I can't understand, it's not accessible. It's like me, Light Watkins, the meditation teacher, reading books on heart surgery and then deciding, okay, I'm going to write a book on heart surgery because, I know some people who had heart surgery and I've read a lot about it. I can probably do a decent job if I studied enough, but if I have never performed it, then I'm going to end up leaving out some things that may be crucial, that could make all the difference in the surgery being successful or not successful. So I think that a lot of what people say, again, it's well-intentioned and all of that, but I think that when we really understand the mechanics and the principles of the practice, meditation is a very, very accessible thing. It's very real. It's something that you don't need to be a hippie or airy-fairy in order to enjoy. In fact, I say that it's for the busy people with lots of kids, lots of jobs, because those are the population of people who don't have a big margin of error when it comes to your decision making. You have to make good decisions, because if you make a bad decision, it's not just going to affect you. It's going to affect the lives of other people, your employees, your family, everybody. And so if meditation is going to give you a level of perspective that you wouldn't have otherwise, then it's going to be detrimental to some extent if you're not enjoying or engaging in this practice on a regular basis.
That statement, and thank you for unpacking that, sharing with people and implanting that seed that if this isn't hard, then you're not doing it right or you're already enlightened. It's sort of like diets and teachers, so-called experts, saying if you're trying to lose weight and you're dieting and you're not hungry all the time, you're doing it wrong.
Right.
Right? It's very misleading, and it's unfortunate because it gives us these stigmas that, hey, this just isn't working for me. This is not for me. And missing out on all of these great benefits. This is the reason I want to have you on and talk about this, is that, wow, like we actually see all of these clinically proven benefits, but there are things even deeper than that.
Right.
And even, the thing that we've talked about, the airy fairy, that's a real, like that's one thing that it matters.
You're not a real man if you meditate. It's like, come on, what are you talking about?
And even, this idea, even if I think that the hippie person that might be listening is like, they're already winning. Like you're onto something in a way,
We don't have to convince them. They're already convinced.
Exactly.
It's the other guys.
And so, because there are certain things in my life that, even our story of us meeting that are pretty unexplainable, that I think that these things lean to, and you starting to understand, like, there's an entire universe inside of you.
That's
you
right.
know? And it is that's the final frontier for real. And there's this quote, I got to ask you about this, that you start off your book with. It's like on the very first opening. And it says, all of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone.
That's right.
Right? Why did you put this here at the beginning of the book?
Well, first I want to give credit to the person who showed me that quote, Agapi Stassinopoulos. Have you met her before?
I have not. No.
She's Ariana Huffington's sister, and she's written a few books on her own. One being the what is it? The joy of waking up to the joy of you. And very, very profound and beautiful and wonderful person. She also leads a lot of meditation experiences. But the thing that resonated with me about that quote is, we have this kind of idea that we need stimulation in order to feel productive. We need to be doing something. Again, it's our conditioning. It's how we've been raised in this capitalist society. I don't have any problem with capitalism, but in this society, a part of that is the conditioning that hard work is what leads to success, and being active is required in order to work hard. If you can't just sit around and call yourself a hard worker. And if you look at any machine or any device, every single thing that we rely upon for productivity, gadgets, devices, machines, they need some period of rest. You can't just run them all the time and expect them to perform optimally.
Yeah.
And the same applies with our beautiful, wonderful nervous systems that we live in. We need to rest these things. And so, meditation is not a panacea for anything, but it can lay a really strong foundation for just achieving and even subsidizing the lack of rest that people don't normally get when they're sleeping at night. So one of the first benefits that I see that within people who start practicing meditation is they're able to sleep like babies, even people who've been complete insomniacs for years and years and years. I see this all the time. I would even say, 8 out of 10 people, and I haven't read this in any study, this is my own personal experience from teaching thousands of people, 8 out of 10 of the people that I work with will report after a few days, I'm sleeping so much better, right? And so when we look at why are they sleeping so much better, one of the things that studies say is that, the average person is walking around with a concentrated amount of cortisol or some stress chemistry in their bloodstream, right? And so what is the job of stress chemistry? To get you to run away from jaguars, to get you to not jump out of an airplane, to get you to protect you. It's a protective measure, right? But you don't need this protective measure if you're lying in your Tempur-Pedic mattress at 1 o'clock in the morning and you have to wake up at 6 o'clock to go to work. You don't need it then.
Yeah, life's pretty sweet.
Life should be pretty sweet at that point. But if you have it in your body, you're not going to be able to sleep as deeply as the body is designed to sleep. You end up tossing and turning or with some other symptom of sleep deprivation. And so your one asset, which is the nighttime rest, the one asset the body had to go in and rehabilitate itself, now has gotten hacked. It's been compromised, just like, when you get malware on your computer, what happens? Things slow down, things get a little bit jittery, and so you wake up in the morning wishing you had slept better, not feeling fully rested, and then that causes you to be more susceptible to the smaller little stress that should be overlooked in the next day. And then it just snowballs from there. And then if left unchecked, that stress will start to habituate, meaning the body has its own algorithm, just like Google or Facebook have algorithms, where if you go and sometimes you go and you internet stalk some friend or some ex-girlfriend or something like that on Facebook, you type in the name 2 or 3 times. I'm speaking from experience.
I'm like, yeah.
And then even if you're trying to find someone else's name, you type in the first letter, but because you've typed in that other name so many times, it auto-completes it. And that's what the body does. If you keep going into the stress reaction enough times, one day the body's going to say, you know what? It's so much easier just to stay in this mode than it is to come out of it and go back in and come out and go back in. So let's just stay in it. Let's just treat all situations as though they're stressful situations. And so it creates this layer of anxiety and depression and pretty much all the imbalances that we report. If you look at the connections, and you can Google fight or flight symptoms, and you'll find websites with hundreds of these symptoms, and you're going to see everything on there, every single one that you suffer from or that someone you know suffers from dry mouth to joint pain to diabetes, Alzheimer's, digestive problems. And, so when we talk about things like, you're not a man if you meditate, well, if you can't get an erection, you're not, that's a symptom of stress in the body, right? Yeah. Does that mean you're a man if you can't get it because you have so much stress because you don't sleep at night? Yeah. Whereas a meditation practice supplies the body with rest, which allows you to sleep better, which means your reproduction system can work a lot better. Your body doesn't need reproduction if you're running away from a tiger, which is what it thinks is happening. If you can't digest your food properly, right, you're not going to the bathroom more than once a week. Is that what you really want? Is that what being a man is about, right? The body doesn't need digestion if it's running away from a bear, and that's what it thinks is happening. So if meditation supplies the body with rest and reminds the nervous system that there is no bear attack, all of a sudden, guess what? Your digestive system is now back online. Yeah. So all these little long-term survival functions get shut down when the body thinks it's under attack, and they come back online when the body knows that there's no danger. And that's what meditation does. It brings you back to yourself. It's not some, cloud experience where you're floating around. It's just you being a better version of you.
Man, I think this is bringing to light. You see that what I did there? So this is really bringing to light how meditation actually shows up for better sleep. And you mentioned it, that there are certain layers or certain aspects of meditation that are actually more effective, for regenerating your body. And this is really being able to really even consciously turn off that sympathetic fight or flight nervous system and turn on the parasympathetic rest and digest nervous system. And it was American Academy of Sleep Medicine utilized, and this is again just one form of meditation for folks with clinical insomnia, so chronic sleep problems. And they had them to take on a meditation practice, a mindfulness meditation practice. And this was just even over the course of, 8 to 10 weeks. And them doing this daily practice in the morning showed up for them at night when they went to sleep. Here's what happened. They all had, on average, increased sleep time overall. They improved their sleep latency. So this means they fall asleep faster. Reduced wake after sleep onset. So after they fall asleep, they wake up less often. And they saw a reduction in depression symptoms, right? All of this from doing a meditation practice in the morning. But here's the thing. It's kind of free, right? Ambient costs, but this is what we're geared towards. And we're not looking at what is the actual underlying cause. And like your quote says, there can be so many problems that are solved with people just sitting alone, and not running from ourselves. Because I think that's another symptom, is just there's so much internal stuff going on, and it can be difficult to process, And, we all have our troubles, and most of the time we just want to go, for some of us, depending on your personality type, just go attack the troubles.
Right. The
You know?
Band-Aid.
Then we got other folks who want to hide from the troubles, and they'll medicate themselves in various ways. And so this is actually another aspect of this self-care movement that's taking place, you know, and taking care of ourselves. Not just like we get it with the external stuff, you know, getting out, doing the squats and the push-ups, and that's all wonderful. But also, you know, and I would see this over the years, you know, some patients, they didn't need to work out, they need to work in, you know, and taking some time to help direct them. And now I have an even greater valuable resource to share with them with your book. So thank you for that, man. But I want to actually shift gears really quickly because we was talking about this. Well, actually, first, let's talk about the time of day. Let's share a little nugget on that because, like, I want to improve my sleep. Should I meditate, you know, while I'm in bed? So
Right. And it's important to understand that depending on what style of meditation you're practicing, there are best times of day to do them.
Yes.
A lot of people kind of default to meditating either in the morning or right before bed. And what meditation can do for us very, very effectively is it can supply us with a surge of energy, right? So one of the reasons why people sleep better when they start meditating is because they're getting their supply of energy at the appropriate times. So first thing in the morning, if you've been just living your life for years and years, you haven't been meditating, there's a better than even chance that you're sleep deprived, right? I don't know, you probably know the statistic more than me, but last I read, it was like 8 out of 10 people or 9 out of 10 people have some level of sleep deprivation.
Oh, this is, you know, when you actually look at the numbers, 2/3 of all Americans have problems sleeping either every night or every other night.
Right. So that means that, you know, when you wake up in the morning, you're probably not as rested as you could be. So doing a meditation right then gives you that surge of energy, which allows you to function optimally for that first portion of your day, right? So now obviously you don't have to meditate. You drink coffee, you could do Red Bull, I call these sort of dirty energy, you know? Meditation is like clean energy, meaning the meditation is not going to give you any side effects. The dirty energy substances and experiences come with a downside. You may get the jitters from the caffeine. You may get the crash from the sugar, right? So you can do it, but you have to pay a cost for that. Meditation, you wake up, you do your meditation in the morning, 15, 20 minutes is optimal. You don't need an hour. 10 minutes is not enough. I would say 15 minutes average. You sit, you do your meditation. That should take you through the first portion of the day. And then normally what happens around 2, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we start getting that lull in our energy. That's where we start going for the second espresso or the scone or some other sweet. That's where you can do your second meditation. In that period of time, mid-afternoon to late afternoon, early evening, when you're feeling a little bit tired or a little bit distracted, you sit down, you do your second meditation, you get another jolt of energy. That'll take you through the next portion of your day, right? And what this meditation is doing is it's creating space in your awareness so that when you are dealing with your high demand, high pressure work situation, or you're having a conversation that can go off the rails, or you're dealing with your child and you don't want to say the wrong thing, that space comes in really handy as a tool that you can use to kind of energetically just kind of step back for a second. Just hit the pause button on the reaction, right? Very, very practical, very valuable to have that. If you don't have that, what happens? You say the thing that you regret 5 minutes later. And then you have to spend the next 5 days, 5 years cleaning up from that one thing you said, that one reaction you had, culminated with all the other things that have been happening over the last 10, 20, 30 years. So,
well, let's talk about this for a second, because for me, and I did a survey. I asked my wife and I asked my son, my oldest son, who was there with me, you know, he's 17 now, in the early days of Shawn. And I asked him, like, hey, have you noticed that I'm a lot more patient? He's like, yeah. And, you know, same thing. Just by the nature of the environment that I was in, just very impatient, very agitated type person, which people wouldn't know that about me now. But I would see those things, and I would see small instances of those things, like early on when I first met my wife. But the first year, let me throw this out there. First year we were together, I said these words with my mouth, man. I said these words to her. I was like, I don't think I could ever get mad at you. Yeah, congratulations, you played yourself.
You just
I don't
played
know
yourself.
what. I was just in that stage, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? But, you know, at this point, she's seen it as well. Like, it's not, and that's what I want to talk to you about. It's not what you get in the meditation necessarily. It's what you carry out of the meditation.
That's right.
And how you operate in the world. Because now I have that space. And also when there's something going on, you know, it might bother me, you know, you're human, but there's like a part of me that just doesn't, I'm okay. I'm calm. I'm solutions oriented. I'm present. There's a space that's there that gets developed, and it grows as you grow this practice. So let's talk a little bit about that.
And it's very tangible too. It's very tangible. I just want to complete the last thought really quickly, and I want to dive into that because it's very important. But if you meditate at those 2 times, then when you get ready to go to bed at night, you're going to have the best sleep of your life, because your body combined with the activity combined with the meditation is what then leads to deep sleep. If you wait until 11 o'clock at night to get the meditation energy, you don't need it then. So then you may end up having poor sleep, thinking, oh, meditation doesn't work, right? But it does work. You just have to do it at the proper times. So now when we talk about how do I determine whether or not the meditation is working, the worst way to tell if meditation is working is based on what you're thinking about in meditation during the practice, right? Because a lot of times you hear people, I just thought about my to-do list. I just thought about, you know, this conversation I had earlier today. I just thought about what's for dinner, or, you know, something else that's not very positive. Meditation isn't working, right? But if you keep the camera rolling, what's going to happen is you're going to come out of meditation and you're going to be in a situation, a real life situation, where it could get really intense really quickly, and you're going to find that there is going to be a little bit of space there. Now, you may not be aware of it in the moment, but once you accumulate enough experiences like that, somebody may come to you and say, oh my God, you're so patient, or you're so understanding, or so compassionate, right? And that's what true presence feels like. True presence is not you sitting there aware of the fact that you're present. That's not presence. Yeah. If you have to know that you're present while you're present, you're not present, right?
Yeah.
When you're out in nature, when you're on a romantic trip and you're in the process of falling in love, when you're playing sports, when you're in that flow state, you're not aware that you're in the zone while you're in the zone. It's not until afterwards somebody comes up to you and goes, you know, you were amazing. The thing you just did, and how did you do it? What were you thinking about? I wasn't thinking about it. That's how you know you're in the zone, is after the fact. So everything that happens in those other 23 hours is how you're going to gauge progress with meditation. If you sit there and think about conversation after conversation, followed by song lyric, followed by movie scene, and then you're sleeping like a baby at night, it worked. Right? So again, we just need to, this is another myth, we need to gauge progress not by what happens in the practice, but by what happens outside of the practice. And there's a story I tell in the book, and I think I mentioned it in my TED Talk, about this woman, this lawyer, who learned how to meditate with me. And she lives in New York, very type A person. And she was just like clockwork with her meditation. And for a year, she meditated every day, morning, afternoon. And then she came back to me, and she sat in on a group of where I was teaching new people how to meditate. And I was talking about how, you know, progress in meditation happens outside of meditation. And she interrupted me and she says, I haven't noticed anything. And I've been doing it every day. And she said what she had to say. And then I replied to her. I said, look, you probably won't notice it yourself because you are in your body and you know what you're thinking about, even though maybe you're not even voicing what you were thinking about, whereas before you were. But I said, just keep going. It's not possible for you to meditate as consistently as you've been meditating and not have some very positive, tangible benefits occur. So she left, and I could tell she was a bit disappointed. Mm-hmm. And then she sends me this email 3 months later. She says, Light, you're gonna love this story. I was out to dinner with my husband, I've been married to him for years. And we got into one of our normal fights at dinner where I was right and he was wrong. She said,
Right.
the usual.
Typical.
Yeah. And she said that after a little while, when my husband was sure that the argument was dead and buried, he started to look at me like I was some kind of apparition or ghost. And finally I said, honey, why do you keep staring at me like that? And he said, shaking his head, he said, 6 months ago, if we had that argument, you would have stormed out of the restaurant and left me in here. Because that was their pattern, right? She would just leave every time they got into an argument. And he said, and now you're just able to stay? He said, I think that meditation's working. Don't stop.
There it is.
And then she said, you know what? I think you're right, Light. This happened. And it's not something, she didn't come to meditation
right for that. Yeah.
Right? But that's how it works. It's so all encompassing when it comes to these benefits that a lot of times people end up getting things from it that they didn't even really anticipate. There's another quick story I'll share about this guy. He was in his 60s, came to meditate because he was having severe gastrointestinal problems. He went to go see an Ayurvedic practitioner who was going to prescribe him with different herbs and natural remedies. And the Ayurvedic doctor, which is the Ayurveda is the Indian healthcare using natural approaches. He said, look, I can give you all these herbs, I can give you all this stuff, but it's not going to do anything if you're not managing your stress, because the stress is going to compromise your digestive system, right? So you have to take care of the stress first, then all these other things are going to work well. And so he came to learn how to meditate, and he shows up at the room, and the first thing I have everyone do is take their shoes off. He said, I can't take my shoes off. He told my assistant, I can't take my shoes off. And this is just a tradition from India. You come, there's a picture of my teacher's teacher. And so we made an exception. We said, okay, well, you can keep your shoes on, walk to your chair, and then take your shoes off, which he did. So I ended up working with him and didn't think anything of it. Every time he came, he'd walk to his chair, take his shoes off. And so the reason he didn't take his shoes off is because he had these corrective shoes. He said that about 10 years prior to me meeting him, he woke up one day and he had this kind of metatarsal pain, and he couldn't walk without his corrective shoes. And 3 years after he started meditating, he sends me an email and he says, Light, I was vacuuming my floor today and I looked down and I wasn't wearing my shoes. And, this is not even something I was expecting. I've spent a fortune on corrective shoes for years and years, and I never thought in a million years that I would be walking without them. And I always suspected it was psychosomatic because no trauma happened when his feet got painful. He just woke up one day and it just that's how a lot of us experience life. As we get older, we wake up and we get these little aches and pains that appear to come out of the blue. And like I said, when the body starts habituating towards responding stressfully and it stays locked into that mode, you end up getting these inexplicable health issues. The doctors have no explanation for them except, take this medication, put this Band-Aid on it, and that's how you're going to manage it. And so meditation has a really powerful way of unlocking that. But I can't tell what's going to happen when I see somebody. I just know that when you have less stress in the body, there's a domino effect, there's a ripple, and things tend to get better.
That is a perfect segue to something else that I wanted to bring up today, which is the stress component. This is usually when we think about stress management, meditation is kind of the thing that comes to the forefront. But again, there's a lot of just kind of myths and misinformation about it. And, but stress, I don't think people realize. We've done shows on this. So I put one of the main ones in the show notes on, how stress really can manifest in some serious issues. But a lot of people don't realize over 90% of hospital visits, physician visits today are for stress-related illnesses. And this is like, we're talking like the CDC is saying this. It isn't like Charlie down the street. Like
the naturopath.
But here's the thing. This can manifest in different ways depending on the person. This could be autoimmune. This could be, heart disease. This could be arthritis. This could be, like my man, because when first was like, why don't I want to take his shoes? I must have hammer time in his shoe. Like, man, he's got something nasty. He's got the toe fungus. Go get checked out. But actually, these were his corrective shoes, But it can manifest in that different way. And it's so, I think it's important for us to understand just how powerful our minds are to affect change in a positive way and a negative way. And oftentimes it's just feedback. Your body is giving you feedback to change.
Yeah.
You know? And so another part of this, so what we're doing is talking about the inner execution, you know, working in, but also working out is important. And my man is fit. He does this thing. We talked about this before the show, doing the strength training and having that coupled with, you know, he's doing the yoga for many years as well. But we need to get those stimuli from different areas. And so for me, I'm a huge fan of functional training, right? So these things that really translate and make you better in all areas. So working with kettlebells, working with the battle ropes, working with the steel maces and steel clubs. And the company that really pushed this into culture is On It, right? And so now, like, you see celebrities like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson using their kettlebells, like this big gorilla kettlebell. But they also do stuff. What I love about them is they make it, there's this little extra added dimension of coolness to it. Because again, falling in love with the process. What if it's just something cool that you like? Like, I want to go grab this kettlebell because it's a Darth Vader kettlebell. They have Darth Vader kettlebells.
I just saw that the other day. I didn't realize that was On It that was producing those things.
See,
Those are
man, you see
amazing.
that synchronicity
It definitely
right there?
got my attention. I was like, whoa, that's amazing. It was a
It's
King
dope,
Kong.
man. Yeah, they got that one too.
yeah.
So any Star Wars fans in here? I'm asking the team. I knew my man right there. But here's the thing. So they got Death Star slam ball, like medicine ball. You know, you got those medicine balls. It's one is the Death Star. So dope. Yoga mat. It's Harrison Ford, like when he gets
Frozen.
Yes. Oh, it's so cool. So guys, pop over, check out their training equipment. You guys already know I'm a huge fan of On It. You know, their supplements, and you know, they're doing a lot of things right. This is one of the few companies that actually does clinical trials, which is hella expensive, to really test the efficacy. You know, double blind, placebo control, all that stuff the right way. Not saying, oh, I believe my thing is right, let me test to make sure, you know what I'm saying, that I get the results I want. And so they've got that aspect with the Shroom Tech Sport, the Alpha Brain product. But guys, check out their training equipment. I've got all kinds of good stuff in my house. So they've got the Star Wars partnership. They partner with Marvel. And these companies don't just partner with anybody, you know. So they've got the Iron Man kettlebell. They've got Captain America plates for your barbell. Onit.com/model. That's ONNIT.com/model. You get 10% off all of that. All right. Exclusive alert. All right. Head over there. Check them out. Onit.com/model. So we've covered and we've traversed, you know, even with these various myths.
There's a lot.
We've got 3.
There's a lot, yeah.
But I want to go through, I want to get these last 2 as well. So let's dive in.
Yeah. So I don't have enough time to meditate.
Oh, yeah. That's a big one. Same thing with exercise.
Same thing with exercise. But even more so than that, you know, there have been studies that have shown that meditation can reverse biological aging, right? So obviously we have our chronological age,
Right, true,
which is
true.
the age of our physical body, or I'm sorry, the age of how many years we've been on the planet. But then we also have a biological age, which is how old the physical body, or how fast the physical body is aging in comparison to our chronological age. And what's been shown is that if someone starts meditating, let's say they're age 30, right? And let's say they meditate consistently. Consistently is very important. They meditate consistently for 5 years. So by the time they're chronologically 35 years old, biologically, if they were 30 biologically at the start of the meditation, at the 35 chronologically, they would be in the biological age on average of a 23-year-old.
Come on.
Which means that the body is going to reverse 7 years, in some cases up to 12 years, younger than they were when they started the meditation. Now, what does that mean in practical sense? In a practical sense, it means you have the skin elasticity of the 23-year-old version of yourself. So you have a lot of women out there spending a lot of money on anti-aging cream at these, you know, high-end department stores. And guess what? The body produces its own anti-aging cream. It's called elastin. It's a hormone. And when you're living in a body that's very stressed, what the stress does, the stress chemicals do, is they form this casing around all of the cells and the receptors of those cells that are normally intended to receive those hormones, like elastin, or like the synovial fluid that keeps your joints oiled and, you know, moving fluidly, and the minerals and nutrients from all the wonderful organic farm-to-table food that we may consume. And instead, it it causes all that stuff to bounce off and not be metabolized properly, and we don't get the benefit from it. So the skin gets saggy, the joints get painful, and we may as well be eating McDonald's. When it comes to trying to eat high quality foods, we're not getting the nutritional value from it. And that's why, as you said, your state of mind is as important towards your health as what you're eating and all the other wonderful things that we want to do and we spend our money on. So that's what's important about this practice. It's not a silver bullet, but it will lay a foundation. So all the other things that we do it'll get metabolized better, and you'll end up in a younger version of yourself as a result of it.
So you're getting time back.
You're saying,
I don't have time.
That's right.
This gives you more time.
You're getting refunded back, just like on your taxes. You get refunded back some money maybe every year. Every year you meditate, you'll get refunded back a year of your biological age. And then after 5 years, it levels off at about 6 months. For every calendar year, you only age about 6 months instead of what everybody else is doing, which is aging about 1 to 1.2 years biologically for every calendar year. So there's a lot of benefit biologically when it comes to you making the time for your daily meditation practice.
Yeah, and this is in the very prestigious International Journal of Neuroscience. And
that
it's
one.
really fascinating. Man, of course, man. Because, this is the thing about, I'm a very analytical human by nature,
Right.
I want to know why. I want to know how stuff works. And I want to know, like the real practicality of it.
Right.
That really helps a lot with me doing the thing. And then what's so fascinating and why, even with the show, we imbue it into the show, you start to open doors that you didn't even know existed.
Right.
And we're just now starting to try to figure out and explain some of these things. But I feel very joyous knowing that I've experienced it. But I also want other people to be able to walk through those doors and experience these things we can't even describe yet. And so again, this is one of the reasons I want to have you on. So we get refunded back the time. So one more. Let's hit one more.
Well, the last one, it could be a little bit controversial, especially with the nature of what we're talking about now, which is the meditation studies. There are studies that are promoted these days that I think can also raise the level of the expectation a little bit beyond what the average person experiences. There's some studies that say meditation can help you reduce addictive behavior such as smoking cigarettes and things like that, or reduce your chocolate consumption. But again, from the field, from what I've seen, there are people who have, are chocolate addicts. There are people who started smoking after they started meditating. I know people who have anger problems as meditators. And here's the one thing that no study can ever show is that whatever is being prevented as a result of meditation, we can't measure that. We can't measure prevention, right? So just because you may feel like you're backsliding in this way or that way that you read about in a study, it doesn't mean the meditation isn't working, because you will never know what could have been happening had you not been meditating in the first place. And in the book, I tell this story about this kind of relationship fight that I had once, a verbal fight, where I was a meditation teacher at the time, and got into this whole altercation with my girlfriend who didn't want me to leave the house. It was 2 a.m. She wanted to talk about some stuff I didn't really want to talk about, and so I decided I was going to go back to my place because we didn't live together, and ended up culminating in this thing where she was chasing me. I was trying to run away, and she was trying to get me to come back, and so she was chasing me, and this is like 3 a.m. in Beverly Hills. Now you have one of the top meditation teachers running full speed with his, girlfriend right on his heels. And the intention was good. The intention was she just wanted to have a conversation, but I didn't want to have the conversation. So I got in my car, drove off. As I was driving off, my heart is racing. I'm thinking to myself, this is it. This relationship is over. We've tried it. It didn't work, blah, blah, blah. Cut to 6 months later, we're still in the relationship, having these fights. Yeah. And so if I didn't know what I knew, and if I hadn't seen what I've seen working with other people who meditate, I would assume that, well, this obviously means meditation isn't working, right? You can't meditate and be getting into situations like this, much less teach meditation. But you have to also consider, if I wasn't meditating, maybe I would have tried to get married and maybe thought that was going to solve the situation, or maybe the verbal
Have a kid
altercation,
even.
yeah, maybe the verbal altercation would have culminated into physical abuse,
Yeah.
you know, or something much, much worse. Or maybe we would have stayed together for 10 years instead of just another 6 months.
That's
So
deep,
we're
man.
not together now. She's a wonderful person, you know, it ran its course, but not having the access to that spaciousness makes people become codependent in ways that you wouldn't want to be. If your friend was telling you about their situation, you would see clearly, oh, you know, that's a red flag, this is a red flag, etc. But it's hard to see these things for ourselves if we don't have that level of space. So, you know, meditation studies are nice, but we also want to default onto our own direct experience with, again, measuring progress and not beat ourselves up too much over the fact that we're not perfect, because you're not going to spoil the suspense for you, right? You're not going to be perfect, not even as a meditator. But what you will start to notice is that the lag time in between something happening and you correcting it is going to become shorter and shorter and shorter. And then eventually you get to this point where you're able to access what they call in India spontaneous right action, which is a fascinating concept, which means that you're able to cognize a solution. Cognize meaning you're able to mentally download a solution, something that you have not studied before, something that maybe you haven't read about before, but it's an answer that just comes through you. And we've all had this experience where you say something or you do something that just feels like the right thing to say or do.
You're like, I didn't know I knew that.
I didn't know I knew that. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And that's what spontaneous right action feels like. Now, when it happens with people who don't have a regular kind of inner work practice, we qualify that as, oh, that was a coincidence, or that was synchronicity, or I thought about this thing and then this person called me and said the thing that I was thinking about, and how wonderful. It becomes this whole storyline. But what if that was something that can happen all the time?
Yeah.
And that's been my experience. We talk about things like enlightenment. Those are the accoutrements of what people refer to as enlightenment. It's not some, mystical, esoteric thing. It's just like you accessing your full potential. You living in a way that allows you to channel the universal Google can come through you as these answers that maybe you don't have language for, but it's the feeling tone associated with it. So when you see something that connects you with a solution, you recognize it, right? We call it intuition. Yeah. That intuition, that intuitive voice gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And so that becomes, that makes every day like an adventure. When you're able to tap into that spontaneous right action, every situation, every day, every moment can be a complete amazing adventure, because you never quite know what's going to come through. And usually what comes through is something that's taking you into more of a direction of the unknown. You don't know how it's going to turn out. And that's really where you want to be. Like you mentioned a Beckwith quote earlier. I love, one of my favorite Beckwith quotes is, if you're not living life on the edge, you're taking up too much space. That's where you want to be, man, right on that edge, because that's where the excitement is happening. Yeah.
I love it, man.
So that's what meditation does. It takes you right to that space.
Yeah. The universal Google. I like that, man. Yeah. I like that. So I just want to thank you for sharing that, because that really is going to be freeing for a lot of people, whether they know it right now or not. In the fact that this is not about you being perfect. You've got this meditation practice, and now like you're not supposed to get upset or whatever kind of thing that you would carry around. The reality is it changes your life in ways that you don't even realize sometimes.
Right. You can't even know how it's going to change you. And
seeing yourself in that situation. First of all, I'm like picturing a straight cartoon. She's chasing you. I'm like, what kind of love is he giving her? Right. Gotta run it, And so, but it's so great to have people like yourself who are sharing their story. Like, I've got even this, especially the ideas we carry of ourselves, I am this person people coming to for peace, but we still are going to experience times of unrest. We're still going to experience times of stress. We're still going to experience times of anger, and that's okay. But the difference is they no longer own you, That's right. There's a distinction that takes place, and I think that this is part of the gift that this brings. And so, final question for you, man. what is the model that you're here to set for other people with the way that you live your life personally?
That's a good question. You know, I've come to terms with the idea that, well, let me tell you a story. There was this bad Chris Rock movie that was out years ago, and where his character was flirting with the idea of cheating on his wife, and there was this other woman, I think played by Kerry Washington, who was supposed to be the seductress. And did you see that movie?
Yeah, I did.
And so he ends up spending a lot of time whining and dining this other woman, not quite sure if he's gonna ultimately cross the line or not. Anyway, he ends up missing this very important business meeting, and his company ends up losing the deal because he wasn't there. And the partners of the firm, they knew what he was doing, and they pull him into the conference room one day and they say, "Look, we know you've been out chasing this woman, and I just want you to know that when you chase women, you're always going to lose money. But if you chase money, you're never going to lose women." Now, I don't necessarily identify with that statement, but I like the template. And what I did was I heard that and I said, you know what? This is kind of like what it means to chase consciousness, right? When you make expanding your inner consciousness, that inner space, your priority, you're never going to lose the things that you think you want to have in life, which could be abundance, which could be love, which could be influence or, inspiration. And if you try to chase abundance, then you're always going to end up losing something else. If you try to chase relationships, you're always going to end up losing something else. So it helped me understand my priorities. And my teacher's teacher, this Indian guy, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who I think taught your mom or your mother-in-law meditation as well. Somebody once asked him, what's the greatest asset a human being can possess? And he said, the ability to discriminate, right? Now, obviously, there's a bad interpretation of discrimination, but what he meant was the ability to prioritize, to know what's most important, what's second most important, what's third most important, and so on at any time. And here's the thing. You can't just know that for one moment in time, right? The landscape changes. So what's most important in this moment may be second most important 5 minutes from now. So you have to have a level of presence to be able to determine the priorities as they change from moment to moment, right? And so where's the consciousness in this moment? It may not be in the same place as it is in the next moment. So that's what I've been able to experience from my inner work. And that's why I make my inner work a priority, is because it allows me to attract all the other things that I enjoy in my life. I'm not a monk. I like relationships. I like abundance. I like going on trips. I don't like having to worry about money. And so when I take care of the most important thing first, it sets the foundation for all the other things. So then I don't have to lead with a sense of desperation when I'm going into a business deal, thinking that if this thing doesn't work out, then that's going to mean the end of the world. I already know that I have everything I need right now. I'm as happy as I can be right now. So whatever happens here is what's supposed to happen. I'm gonna work hard, and I'm gonna, do everything I can to make sure that my interests are properly represented. But if it doesn't happen even in spite of all that, then that means it wasn't supposed to happen, and that means that there's another opportunity in the next moment. And so I'm going to keep my eyes focused on those other opportunities and not on what's not happening. So that's the symptom of the spaciousness that gets created. And I want to be the inspiration for that. I want to just, when people meet me, I want to hopefully embody some of that so that they can say, because this is what happened to me. When I met my teacher, he was, I would consider, the happiest person that I've ever met. And he wasn't sitting there with a smile plastered on his face. He just was content. It was like he didn't care whether or not I worked with him or, he just made himself available. He was radiating a sense of inner peace that I'd never witnessed before. And I knew at the moment, I want that. I want other people to feel like that around me. I want to help other people feel like that so that when they're out in their corner of the world, other people are attracted to them and they can recognize that there's a quality of presence there that I've never really seen before. What did he do to get like that? He meditated. Okay, well then I need to start meditating. And that's how meditation is spread.
Hey, if you like this video, make sure to check out this video right here to optimize your mindset and to achieve your goals faster.
People say to me, well, why do you do your meditations in the morning? I always say, easy. Because if I can overcome myself at the beginning of the day, the rest of the day is easy. That's the biggest mastery, right? Is the self.